Page 21, Interval Etude. On page 20, they give you a review. You don't really cover the reviews much in these videos. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask. They show you at the top of the page the staff with the notes on the lines or spaces. Keep in mind that when we say a note is on a line, that means the line goes through the note. It's not sitting above it, because that's in a space. So you either got notes and lines or you got notes and spaces. And they show them up above because you can refer to those for this first section, this A section, on which line is this note. Yeah. So if you have questions, you're welcome to ask. Also, the answers to all the reviews and quizzes are in the back of the book, starting, I don't know, somewhere around 152, page 152. So you can check your answers with that if you need to. But I want to talk about interval etude. They're talking here about intervals. Oh, goody. Oh, it just gets better and better, don't it? Okay, let's talk intervals. Actually, they're pretty simple, fortunately. An interval is the distance between two notes. Any two notes, doesn't matter. They're talking here about seconds and thirds, intervals of seconds and an interval of a third. Well, it doesn't matter what the interval is. We're talking any interval. They all work the same. If you understand what they are and how they work, okay. For instance, any two notes. I could take this note and this note. That's two notes. If I want to know the interval between them, that's the distance, I simply count it. I suggest you count up. Get in the habit of counting up when you do this. And the note you're on is 1. We don't start with 0 in music. We start with 1. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That is an interval of a 12th. And that's intervals. That's it. Congratulations, you know something about intervals. They do get a little more involved in that in time, but that's what we need to know now. How to figure out an interval. Well, now in seconds, well, 1, 2, seconds are easy, they're just next to each other. Second, 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 second. They're all seconds. They're next to each other. A third is just one more up. 1, 2, 3. They have a note in between. Thirds. They have a note in between. Seconds sound edgy. They're Thirds sound a little okay. A little more pleasant. And this is important in music because we do this intentionally. The music in places will sound edgy and then it'll resolve into something pleasant. You have that conflict resolution thing going. Now seconds, when the notes are next to each other in the written music, you see, let's look at interval etude. There, in the first line in the treble clef, you have a C and a D. That's an interval of a second. They can't line them up vertically because there isn't room. They overlap. So they have to offset them slightly. But you still play them at the same time. Now in some of my videos, I would say they're touching and they share a stem, so you play them at the same time. Technically, that's not exactly right, but it's easy to see it. Yeah, you can just play them at the same time. The real reason you play them at the same time is because they both come on the same beat. And any note or notes that come on a beat are played at the same time. There's a few exceptions to that. There's exceptions to everything. Don't bother me with details. Just let's stick to this for right now. So you're going to play those two notes at the same time. It's a chord. Remember what a chord is? I can hear harmony. Not saying I'm enjoying it, but I can hear it. And then the next one is an interval of a third, where here they can line them up because there's room. And you'll notice them in the music. You'll recognize them because a second, they're next to each other and they're offset slightly. A third, they're both on lines or they're both on spaces. And they're next to each other. So in the first measure there, you have a C and an E. Well, they're next to each other. We'll go to the second line there. For the left hand, in the third beat, you have an E and a G. It's a third. but they're in spaces next to each other. So thirds are easy to recognize in the music. Our harmonic system is built on thirds. That's an important interval. We're going to talk about that more. Now, you have two flavors of intervals. We got melodic intervals and we got harmonic intervals. We'll talk more about them in the future. I remember them by melodic is like a melody. It's a series of notes. Well, a melodic interval is when the notes are played not at the same time. Like here in interval etude, in the third measure, it's here. We have this to this, that's an interval, but they're not at the same time, so that's a melodic interval. Another melodic interval, a melodic interval. Harmonic, harmony, when I'm hearing more than one note at a time, well, in this case, harmonic intervals are when they're played at the same time. At the beginning of interval etude, they're played at the same time. That's a harmonic interval. So you got melodic intervals and harmonic intervals. It doesn't matter. As far as counting goes, the counting's the same. So the interval etude. We need to maybe talk a little bit about these names. Well, interval, I already talked about interval. It's the distance between any two notes. An etude is a study piece of some sort. Some aspect of music or piano playing or something. That's an etude. So this is a study piece on intervals. And that's why we have these on here. Now, when you play these at the same time, you see above the staff there at the beginning, you have a 2 and a 1. Usually you say the bottom number first and then the upper, because music is built from the bottom and goes up. We get in the habit of at the bottom and go up. So we would say a 1 and a 2. Well, first finger, second finger. That's telling us the fingers. And if we do that, it puts our hand in this position. So we're going to use 1 and 2. I put my finger in that and I'm lowering the hand, just like we did before with the chords. And then I change it. Now I've got 1 and 3. I don't need numbers to tell me 1 and 3 because my hand's in this position. I'm going to use whatever fingers are on those keys. And I have to remember which fingers are on which keys. It's important. Okay, in the second line at the beginning, underneath that staff, you see a 2 and a 1. 2, 1, here. That puts a hand in this position. So I'm going to use 1 or 2 and then 3 and 1 for the next one. That pretty much covers it. Now at the end of the second line, I don't remember us talking about a dotted half note before. I must have missed that one. A dotted half note is a half note with a dot right behind it. Any note can be dotted. I could have a dotted quarter note. I could have a dotted whole note. I could have anything. Anything can be dotted. The rule is the dot gets half the value of the note. It makes the note last a little longer. In this case, in 4/4 time, that half note is going to get 2 counts. Well, half of that is 1. That means the dot gets 1 count. And you simply put it together so a dotted half note gets 3 counts. You hold it down for 3 counts. It's like a half note and a quarter note tied together. Yeah, and all dots work the same. The rule's the same regardless of the dot. I like to think about it as a dotted half note is the same as 3 quarter notes. The dotted note is always the same as 3 of whatever the next note down is. And it doesn't matter what the time signature is. That's always working. So if 3 quarter notes, if a quarter note gets a count, then that's going to get 3 counts. That's why all you get is that note and a quarter rest. Well, altogether, that's 4 counts. And that's good enough. So at the beginning of this, again, if you want to play and say the note, you can do that. Just do the bottom note first. Say C, D, C, E, C, D, C, E, then C, E, D, E, C. Just drill yourself on the names of these notes, please. It's important. Same thing in the left hand. You have an F, G, and an E, G, and an F, G, and so forth. Yeah, drill yourself on it. Look the piece over. Did we do that already? I can't remember now. I'm old. Don't bother me. 2 lines long, treble and bass clef, 4/4 time. The right hand's playing the first line, and the left hand's playing the second, and we got these chords going on. All right. So you go through and learn interval etude with no hesitations. Take it any speed you want. We're not into speed yet. When you feel you're ready, come back to this video to the Play With Me section. Let's play it together. Very slowly to make sure you're playing the same note I'm playing at the same time I'm playing it. Now be careful on these Play With Me sections. You need to learn it first and check it with the Play With Me section. Don't try and use the Play With Me section to learn it. That's backwards. That will actually do some damage if you do that. So you learn it first and then play it with me. I'll give us 4 counts. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 4. Rest. Rest.